This podcast is brought to you by Shankit Golf. Shankit Golf was born out of a collective love for fairways and a desire to break away from the traditional norms of the golf world. Shankit believes that golf is not just a sport, it's a lifestyle, an experience, and most importantly, it's meant to be enjoyed. The founders and us avid golfers are seizing on the opportunity to inject a fresh, vibrant spirit into the golfing community, making it appealing to both seasoned players and newcomers alike. Visit shankitgolf.com to check out their collection of everything from Q-zips, polos, performance hats, and even putters. They even just dropped a new t-shirt line. Make sure to use code 4CHECK. That's 4CHECK with the number 4 for 15% off your order. Trust us, this is good quality stuff, so go check it out. Welcome back to a freshly squeezed episode of the Fairway 4Checks podcast. I am Sawyer Stinchfield. Christopher Peterson Mason is lost in Disney World, and I have a theory about this. Spencer, I will get your take, and we are joined by Spencer Brown. We will have a very awesome interview coming up after we check in with Spencer and talk a little bit about Christopher Peterson Mason, who is absent today. But we have a very special guest, so we're very excited to bring him on later this episode. But before we get into that, let's check in with Spencer. How is Oregon? And I noticed on 18 Birdies, you played around yesterday. I did not check your score, but how did you do?
I played golf.
Did you hack and slash a little?
It was something that resembled golf, yes.
Yeah,
it wasn't great. It was not a great round.
I can't get off the tee right now. I don't know why. I had it dialed for a while, and now it's just back to just I slice really hard. It's just so inconsistent, and I don't know where it came from. It was so far out of my game. I never had to worry about it, and now it's like back to almost like when I first started hitting a golf ball off a tee. Everything my short game is impeccable right now, which is the only reason I'm still shooting anywhere remotely close to high 80s, mid 80s. It's because I am getting up and down for either par or bogey just from everywhere, and it's kind of insane. The rest of my game sucks ass.
Yeah, my chipping's not great. I was definitely going back and forth on the greens, doing the awkward walk of like, oh, well, I guess I'm on this side of the green now. Oh, I'm chipping to that side of the green now. So that was fun. And we got a little bit of rain and a little bit of hail and a little bit of wind. So got it all.
I've noticed when it comes to chipping, if I actually chip a lot better if I close my club face a little bit and give it a little like pop, not the open it up and do the putter stroke. You know what I mean? If I actually close my club face a little and just come back and just give it a little, I chip way better than the traditional method of open the club face, putter swing, come underneath it. You know what I mean? Like it's just a concept that makes way more sense in my head. That's
I have no bump and run. I flop everything. So I was flopping for about 10 yards off yesterday.
Yeah, see, I have just given up on flopping, and I am just a strictly bump and run guy. I'm like Pablo Escobar in the 80s with the bump and runs. I've just accepted that that's my game. But what'd you end up shooting? What did we come out with?
86.
Okay, see,
I cleaned it. So it was a really, if you look at my scorecard,
your bad rounds are my good rounds.
It was a really ugly front nine. I don't think I parred anything on the front nine, but I only bogeyed 3 holes on the back.
See, that's been my problem. Back nines matter, and I can't keep it together. I don't know what it is.
I just started really slow. It took me till 7, I think was maybe my first par, and kind of figured it out from there. But the first 6 holes were ugly. I contemplated on just walking back to the car.
I've actually noticed about my game where if I don't double the first hole, it's going to be a decent day. But the thing is, it almost makes me uncomfortable because I've doubled hole one so many times that it's almost more comfortable for me to just get it out of the way and just double hole one and just get that, you know what I mean? But that being said, that usually is a telling sign of my round is not going to get much better than that. Usually if I can par or walk away with a bogey on hole one, I'm like, okay, let's ease into this. But yeah, we're very average golfers, Spencer. I just very
Yeah, no. If I
and
birdie
you're
hole
better than
one,
me.
I don't
Yeah,
want to play.
and you're better than me, and we're both still very very average golfers. But we've got to figure something out. I do have a lesson June 6th, I believe, is my first official lesson with Franklin. We're gonna see if Franklin can. Hey,
Josh
it's
doesn't do.
Franklin.
Josh doesn't do golf
Hey, it's
club.
Franklin. Do 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 do. We're gonna see if Franklin can fix the swing. So we're gonna give that a try. Real quick before we bring on our guest for our interview, I think Mason's a fry cook at Disney World. I don't know why I think that. I just think he is. I just think
Why?
because he's always there. I just think he's lying about what he does, and he's a fry cook. I think
I
he he
Those
makes
feel
like
like such irrelevant. Like, how do you come to that conclusion?
just because I don't know, like most people.
I think he's a character, and he's not telling us yet. That's why he's got to be there so much.
Two completely opposite sides of the spectrum. You think he's a Disney character? I think he's making fish and chips for his
I was
employees
gonna
on
say
the.
he could be SpongeBob, but that would be a completely different thing.
Yeah, I don't think he would be. No, he would be okay with that probably if they had a SpongeBob. Yeah, so those are the two theories, Mason. If you want to confirm or deny, either you're an actual Disney character, which is why you have to be there so much, or you're a fry cook. It's one of the two. It's one of the two. I don't believe you're a ride operator. I really don't. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can bring on our guest. All right, we now welcome on a very, very special guest. He hails from Winnipeg, Manitoba in the Great North. In his own words, he tells people he plays pro hockey, but really he's just a glorified cheese grater. Some consider him one of the original hockey content creators, documenting his career through YouTube blogs and social media, taking on a very self-deprecating and humorous identity. Just shy of 100,000 followers on YouTube. How you doing? You may know him as Trav4Oilers. Please welcome to the Fairway Four Checks podcast, Travis Ridgen. How's it going, buddy?
That might be the best intro I think I've ever been given for a podcast appearance. Wow, thank you for the effort, man. Your effort is very very well noted and appreciated.
I tend to be known as a wordsmith. They call me
By no one. Yeah,
the
by
songbird
no
of my generation.
Mr. Fergie and Jesus.
Yep, exactly. So we just talked about it a little bit. You're up in Vancouver right now. So how are things there right now? And B, who do you have tonight in the big game 7? How's the town right now?
Man, you know what? They played Game 6 the other night. I had no idea. I was at the SkyTrain station yesterday, and there was this like old lady. She must have been like 7 years old, and she was like an old Asian lady. And she's like, "Did you see the game?" I was like, "What game?" She's like, "Game 6. They lost." She's like a big Canucks fan. I was like, "I had no idea they were playing last night." Now I went out for like a walk this afternoon, and everybody's wearing either Canucks or Oilers jerseys. I was shocked how many Oilers jerseys were outside my apartment because the arena they play at, it's only maybe like a 10-minute walk, maybe like a 15-minute walk away. So it'll be interesting tonight. If they lose, I'm not going outside.
Yeah, Actually, you might have to because they might burn your apartment down from the ground floor up. So you might actually have to get out of there if they do end up losing tonight.
They went west, I think. I live more towards the north of downtown, so I think I should be okay. Because in '94 they had the riot, and then in 2011 they followed the same trajectory from '94. So if they follow 2011, I should be okay. But
perfect.
Yeah.
I've thought about this just in case.
Travis is geographically safe in relation to the riot routes that Vancouver fans like to take. But yeah, so we just let's get into the beginning, man. So you're from Winnipeg. Grew up there, or so the internet says. But what was it like? Winnipeg. What was Winnipeg like? What was youth hockey like there? And then on top of that, how did you get into hockey? Obviously, being from Canada, it's not hard. But did dad play? Did mom play? Did siblings play? How did the skates get put on your feet, so to speak?
Yeah, nobody played actually. My dad played football. My dad barely knew how to skate. And to give you an idea of how well he skated, he would skate in steel-toe boots because he said his knees would hurt. So he'd be like walking around these like heavy-duty, like thick steel-toe boots, shooting pucks with like gardening gloves on. He wouldn't even wear hockey gloves and then a stick. So kind of like paint a picture. 5'5", probably about 280, 290 at this point in time. My dad was a big boy, but he took me skating for the first time when I was 4 years old to Glenwood Arena in Winnipeg. And he said, "You're going to learn how to skate." I said, "Okay." And I went. I didn't do a very good job, and I was kicking, crying, screaming, "I don't want to do this." And then he gave me one of those like wooden chairs, and all of a sudden I was like pushing the chair around. And if you're on the video version, I was pushing around kind of like this, and it went really smoothly. I stopped crying, so we said, "Okay, we'll do it again." And so we just kind of carried on from there. Your question about like what was it like growing up in Winnipeg? I've actually thought about this a couple times because like all I knew was Winnipeg, right? Like as far as like my knowledge as a kid went, the Canadian border ended outside the city of Winnipeg. Like the rest east and the rest west did not make any sense. But then you started venturing other places. You're like, oh wow, like this is kind of cool. And like I missed out on this. So like it provides some context. But like all I knew was Winnipeg, right? Like I'm just a prairie boy. I thought everywhere it snowed and got like minus 40 and freezing, and everybody had outdoor rinks, and there was crazy mosquitoes all summer long everywhere else, and there was only like 6 good weeks a year of weather. I thought that was the norm. We're touring other places thinking, God, I have an appreciation for this shit.
That's all. Yeah, dark by 4:30 in the winter. Just having to just truck it through Winnipeg. I love it. I love it. So before I'll give Spencer an opportunity here, but I do want to ask, talk us through. It's a super interesting just journey and route. I've been watching your YouTube videos for years now. Way back even before the Sweden days. So just talk us through that journey a little bit. Going from AAA, then going to a year of Canadian university, then saying that wasn't right, and then going back to Canadian juniors, and then going just talk us through that kind of beginning of your career, the route from AAA to Canadian university, and then saying, you know what, I want to go back and play juniors, and you did, and you had quite a few good junior years. So what was that experience kind of like?
Yeah, I don't know if there's really much of a thought process. Like I just wanted to keep playing hockey. I knew I loved it, and I knew I wanted to keep doing it. Playing junior hockey, like I tried to make junior hockey in other places, right? Like I've documented this because it's kind of interesting. It's one of those forbidden things. Like if you're not playing on a CHL team, you don't really talk about the fact that you're in camp. And when I was making videos, I was like, this is kind of a forbidden rule. It'll piss a lot of people off. I start making videos on it. So I make videos. I'm like, I went to a main camp here. I got an invite there. And they actually did quite a few views, which was good for business at the time. But I went to a Western League main camp once upon a time. That lasted not very long. And then I don't know how many junior A camps. Actually, I know a lot of teams have folded and kind of changed since then. But at the time, I think I went to a main camp for probably half the teams in the Manitoba Junior A Hockey League. So record that I don't know if anyone will be beaten anytime soon. Obviously cut from all the way. But then playing 14 glorious minutes in English River, Red Lake, Ontario now in the SIJHL Junior A. And then 3 years at Junior B in Manitoba. And those are interesting times. You go through adversity, right? So like I went to English River. I sat on the bench for like 2.5, 3 weeks. Didn't get a sniff. Every game we'd be losing like 8-0, 10-2, 5-1. I remember one game actually. We've been losing every single game. We went up 3-0 in the first period. This was like our Stanley Cup. We had never been so happy. Like, guys, we might actually win one. It was crazy. Go out for the second. We give 8 goals in 6 minutes.
Holy shit.
And they kept starter in the whole time. And every time I look at coach, no.
10th one, you put me in? Nope.
So like that was basically the situation. I mean, also like our head coach was also our GM, president, owner, equipment guy, laundry guy, town mayor. He owned the only gas station in town. And our captain was also dating his daughter, who he then traded at Christmas time for cash to Sudbury, like 12 hours away. Merry Christmas, honey. Your boyfriend's gone. Like what?
So for cash. Yeah.
$500 ain't bad.
Yeah. So you mentioned, were you doing content? Like, were you just kind of starting out content during that time? Were you doing any kind of videos or vlogging during your kind of junior career?
Yeah, so there was no vlogging. My start in making videos was, I had this idea one day that I always wanted to make like montages of my favorite NHL goalies, and I could never find what I wanted to online. So I would go online, I downloaded clips from NHL.com. I had a couple like other clip converters, and I just put them on my computer, put the music I liked, and I just watched them like before my practices and my games. And then it got to a point where like this is like 2010, 2011. My parents' computer only had a 40 gigabyte hard drive. So you're making videos with 40 gigs, you run out of space real quick. So I thought, just put them on YouTube. That's a great storage vessel, and I can just like go and access them and just keep making more. And so then I did that. People started watching them because they're public, obviously. And then like 3 years later, I had like 7,000, maybe 8,000 subscribers ish. And I was doing that while I was like that very short stint of junior A,
Yeah.
And whatnot. I was kind of keeping on the down low because it was kind of embarrassing. Like, God, like I'm making YouTube videos. Like, does anybody know?
That's super interesting that you started like just doing clips. Like, so like Jen's 95. I'm sure you know like that YouTube, like she just like does like she just pulls these like clips, like these 10, 15 second, and people will just request like, hey, can you pull the clip from the Islanders game of this happening? And she'll go and do it. So it's super cool that you got your start, not even from like the new age of like vlogging, but just like going and pulling clips from your favorite NHL players and just posting those montage videos on YouTube. I mean, that's kind of the early days of what it was. That's awesome, man.
I think she was doing that at the same time that I was too. So like, she's an OG. She does a great job, by the way, if she watches the show. But
yeah,
like, that was how I learned how to like clip videos, like from iMovie to Final Cut, how to like time montages, how to like certain action shots. And I'm not filming anything. I'm just taking the NHL's clips, and I'm like, okay, like this works, and then I can zoom this clip in, then I have a slow-mo shot, and I speed it up myself, and I jump to this angle. Like, I was learning all these editing things like subconsciously. I wasn't like purposely doing it, but I was just trying to figure my way out around editing. And then I guess I just woke up one day and was like, I don't really want to do this because this isn't like something I'm creating. I'm taking some like two things that exist and like putting them together. They're not really my thing.
But it's not mine.
Yeah, like there's nothing that I own. There's nothing that I'm actually accomplishing here or achieving outside of just ripping off two things and putting them together. And like, I'm not making any money. It's a passion project. And then I thought, well, I got a couple of subscribers, by a couple like 7,000-8,000, get a little bit of an audience. I have a passion for hockey. There's a huge hole in the market right now for doing reviews, especially like I started being a goalie when I was 10. And again, keep in mind, my dad wearing like the steel toe boots and like the gardening gloves shooting pucks. He had no idea about hockey equipment at all. So everything that we learned was like firsthand, or like trying to there was a website called goalieforum.com. You have every Tom, Dick, and Harry who knew nothing about hockey trying to give advice on goalie equipment. That's where my dad got his advice from. And so I thought, and again, my dad tried his best, but he didn't know what he didn't know. And so my thought process was, what if I take that concept and I try to help other people in that same situation? So if I buy the new Bauer stick, hey, I bought the stick. This is what I paid. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. Here's some visuals of it. Take what you will. So I started doing that. Originally, anything I could get my hands on, I would make a video on. And then I got to the point where I've kind of like milked this dry. So then I'd reach out to companies, and I must have sent 400 cold emails. If you can think of the company at the time, store, retailer, wholesale, everybody said no. Except for one company, and that was Padskins out of Ontario. They sent me like $300 worth of stuff, sight unseen. Keep in mind, I'd never made a video at this point in time when I was asking them. I was just like stocking up this footage. Guy gave me some stuff. Mark, by the way, to this day, I still talk to him every now and then. He's a great guy. Padskins out of Orangeville, Ontario. But I did the reviews for maybe a year and a bit. And I slowly started adding, add my voice in, add some on-ice visuals. And then one day I was like, I got the on-ice. I should just like mic myself up. Because I hadn't seen this done before. So I mic'd myself up, and then boom, caught wildfire. The junior hockey vlogs started popping. I mean, you can go on YouTube now and still watch those videos, even though I'm not necessarily like overly proud of those videos anymore, and nor do I really like them. But hey, that's what helped grow the channel, and that's what people think of, I think, when they think of a lot of my videos. So that was that. And then that kind of evolved into, I started to get some flack because the videos were getting like big numbers. Like they're doing like 40, 50, 100,000 views a piece in the junior B days.
I was going to ask you about this because I noticed as I was watching some, and I hate to cut you off, but I just wanted to bring this up. I noticed over time as I was watching your videos, I would notice in the comment section, there are so many haters.
I had the same question. Like, did you ever want to like, was there a moment where like, I don't want to do this just because the criticism, maybe in even your off ice life and on ice, like kind of just got too hot?
You know what? I've seen so many people say that they've never seen someone in the hockey community get as much hate as I do. It doesn't bother me.
It's so honestly weird. It's so weird, though.
It doesn't bother me. And I think if I had to boil it down, I know we're kind of skipping ahead here, but if there's something that really pisses people off, it's the fact that I'm not this overwhelming athlete. I don't have like like hands like Pavel Barber. I don't have like any of these like attributes that a lot of these like really, really high end guys do. I'm just a big 6'5" goalie from the prairies of Manitoba who loves hockey and just didn't take no for an answer. And I think people like they see that story and they get like enraged on the inside because then they realize, first off, they could have been doing that because it's really not that hard with a little bit of adversity battle. And then on top of that, they see that I'm posting it online And it takes balls to do that, which they don't have. Then they also see the sponsors, and that this is my full-time income for 6, almost 7 years now, and they blow a gasket. They're like, I effing hate this guy. This guy's done everything that I could have
Yeah.
done, but they're probably better than me. Like even now, there's guys where they play junior A. Like there's one guy, he was junior A goal of the year in Manitoba, this short little nerd, and this guy will leave like nasty comments, like chirp me all the time on Instagram or TikTok, whatever. Like, what a loser this guy is. This guy barely plays pro hockey, and I respond to everybody with the exact same response. How many pro hockey games did you play this season? And how many dollars did you make doing it? I want a dollar figure, please, for both. And you will never, ever
Yep.
get an honest answer about that. Because if you answered it honestly, you would realize, like there's this one kid that sent me this big message the other day. I check my messages every now and then just because there's so many crazy ones that pop in. Even now where I've been quiet for a bit. But this big message, like this kid went so out of his way. Big message, a couple paragraphs about how much he hated me, how much I suck, how my post work is awful, how my gloves are sloppy, how I'm a terrible this, terrible that. And then, because I'm always curious, right? Like, hate never comes from above you on the ladder, right? So, like, for example,
Yeah.
like one of my good friends, I'm sure you've seen it in the blog of the podcast, like Matt Murray, him and I are really good buds. He is way above me on the ladder, but I've never been disrespected by him ever because why would he bother, right? Like, we're good friends
Yeah.
on a professional level. And on a friendship level as well, but like, why would he shit on me? He doesn't have anything to prove. But hate always comes from below you on the ladder. And so I love whenever I see these comments and I open their profile and I look, and this dude's like 150 pounds, maybe 45 years old, overweight. He's got like a family of 5, and he's neglecting them to leave this comment, or in a lot of cases, like 13.
He's
14.
neglecting them to leave this comment.
Like, bro, if you told your wife, who first off is allowing you to have internet access because you're a nerd, if you told her that you were doing this with your spare time instead of changing the kids' diapers, or God forbid, being a good husband, what would she say? Wouldn't be very happy.
Yeah.
Like,
It would be terrible.
There's 2 types of people in the world. There's dudes who are chasing excellence and dudes who watch others chase excellence by proxy.
Yeah.
So while you're doing this and accomplishing nothing, I'm working towards goals, whether you hate it or you love it. Because I don't really care. Like I've always been like achievement focused, whether it's with the podcast, the vlog, working out as an athlete, as a man, dating, finances, business, like all that. I've always been extremely achievement focused, and anything else is just kind of like outside noise. And these are all things that like subconsciously I thought about, but like now as I've gotten older, I've started to realize like, oh, this is a good framework to have to like just block that out to kind of focus and go forward.
Yeah, so we'll get into it in a little bit, but you played, and I deal with this a little bit down here in Texas, and what I mean by that is, I don't have a big YouTube channel like you do, but so you played a few games for that Vail Yeti team. I play for a team down here in Texas who plays in that same league, right? We play Breck, we play Reno, we play a lot of those teams. It's not professional hockey. It's very, very low level, even semi-pro, if you wanted to call it that. But at the same time, I will play in like a men's league game, or I'll play roller hockey, and I will get chirped by guys who are like jealous that they can't play for a senior A hockey. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, like, how much did you pay to go to Vegas? And it's like, I mean, I bought my flights. Like, I don't know. The hotel was covered. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, this is such a weird chirp you're throwing at me here. You know what I mean? It's like, and it used to kind of make me mad, but then I just look at it, it's like, they're just jealous. And it's so weird that people, even like on that low of a level, like guys are jealous that they can't play or they aren't good enough to play for a travel senior A hockey team. It's the wildest thing. And it's like, buddy, it doesn't take that much. If you really wanted to do it, go hit the gym, get a couple private skating coaches. But it's just guys that just like you said, it's guys that have the time to waste. It's not guys like I play with guys, and I know guys that play in the NHL, that play in the AHL. One of my good buddies plays down here for the Allen Americans. He would never do that, like you said. You know what I mean? Like, he's never going to chirp me because what does that get? What does that do for him? Like, A, he's my buddy, he's my friend. B, it's so below him to even think to chirp somebody on that kind of level. So I think it's very interesting. You said it's always somebody that's below you. And so, yeah, I just wanted to get your take on just the negative feedback that you still have to deal with.
Yeah, a couple things that come to mind. So you actually mentioned a point I was going to hit on, but if you really wanted to do it, just show up to the gym and start doing little things. And that's the reality of my journey, is that if you really want to do something, you'll go and do it, right? You ever hear, like, let's say like somebody's been smoking for like 10 years and they're like, oh, I want to quit. Well, when? maybe like 6 months, a year. Well, you don't really want to quit because if you really wanted to, you'd start today now and then you'd stop, right? Like, for example, I'll use myself. I would personally, you know what I would love to do? I would love to be a figure skater, but I don't give a shit enough to actually put the time in to go do the training to become a figure skater. I don't give a shit. I really don't. But if I gave enough of a damn, I would go out and I would go train 5-6 days a week. But I don't. And same thing with them. They haven't done and accomplished that. And again, there's an essence of accomplishment and achievement doing these things that they will never be able to understand, which is why you see so many couch coaches. Now, so Matt, for example, like Matt gets way more shit than I do. I mean, he deleted all the social media for a reason. You see all these people like,
oh yeah,
which is interesting enough because since I've publicly put out that him and I are friends, I seem to be getting a lot of his shit. Like, people look at me and be like, well, that's why Matt sucks.
Matt deletes his Instagram, and now Travis has to take the shit for it.
Like, people mess with me, like, can you tell him to fix his glove in? Or actually, you know, this one kind of hurt. Somebody messaged me and said, you and him both need new barbers. I want you to know that.
Terrible haircuts.
Oh, that one actually kind of hurts.
You know, the glove one, I didn't care about. The post work sloppy, that didn't bother me. But the haircut, okay, there's a little.
Now you got me. Now I'm losing sleep. Now you got me. Yeah.
But there's something that they'll never be able to understand. Like, I understand with Matt, even though there's only like a couple percentile differences between him and I, that percentile at the level is huge, which is why he's playing the NHL and has made how many millions of dollars, and I make $125 a week in the Fed. Small details, huge difference, right? But the average fan is not going to understand that. And the average 14-year-old whose parents are paying $10,000 a year to play hockey on a team he doesn't belong on will also never understand that, because hockey is also one of those sports where, like, the prices have gotten so astronomically high. Like, I played AAA hockey 10 years ago. I've told the story a couple times on the podcast, so forgive me if you heard this, but my mom cut a check for $5,000. Now that same hockey is 10 to 15,000 a year, depending on which team in the city you're picking. So it's doubled, if not tripled. So the entitlement has gone through the roof because these parents are saying, well, I'm paying $10,000 to $15,000 for hockey. I'm paying $10,000 to $15,000 a year for equipment. I'm paying $10,000 to $20,000 a year for training. I'm spending $60,000. I'm spending a good mid-class income on my kid to play hockey. I deserve this. I deserve that. And the kids are a byproduct of the parents. So when the parents have that mentality, why do you think Jimmy and Johnny do? Which is why I hate that. I find it so annoying. But here's actually one positive thing. I have never in my life ever had a single person, not one, ever say that to my face in person. There's actually one guy in Winnipeg, this was a couple of years ago. He left a comment, big keyboard, tough guy, big comment, but you suck this, blah, blah, blah. I actually saw him at a skate one time. And so I skated up to him and I said, hey, Scotty, I saw your comment. I just wanted to know if you wanted to say it to my face. And if he would have said it to my face, I would have just said thank you and shook his hand. He wouldn't make eye contact with me. He completely ignored me, because nobody that puts that on a keyboard has the balls to say it. Also, to remind you, like, Scotty is about 5'10", 190 pounds. I'm 6'5".
Yeah, so you're towering over this guy.
Well, and I'm like 240 pounds right now. So, like, you probably don't want to say that to my face.
Yeah.
Also, I train combat sports as well now. So these things are not really going in your favor to be tough to me in person, because, like, we've lost the consequence of violence. Like, men have always been violent since the beginning of time. And when you cross a certain line, violence appears on the other side. But when you're sitting behind your keyboard, I can sit here in my apartment, talk shit all day. Nobody's going to come show up at my doorstep. But the one day when you do, you are not prepared for what you're about to witness. And it's going to be a very bad day for you.
Yeah.
If that's how you live life.
Yeah. Yeah, that Spencer knows me very well. I am a firm believer in all of that. I think it's reasonable expectations, right? If you're a keyboard warrior and you end up seeing the person in real life, there's a reasonable expectation you're going to get your ass beat. I mean, it's all reasonable expectations when it comes to life and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, people need to learn that you can't just say whatever you want to. I've told Spencer this. We've talked about this on the pod. I think that any fan that heckles a professional athlete should have to fight that professional athlete anytime it's like, if Russell Westbrook is just getting completely berated by somebody behind him, he should have the right to turn around and go, okay, pause the game. Me and this guy are going to fight for 2 minutes, and then we can go back to playing basketball. It would just solve so many problems, because all these people would just get absolutely destroyed.
Depending on that, though, like, if the guy's paying $150, $200 a pop, you can say whatever you want. Like, did you pay? Yes. I don't care then. Please continue.
True. Yeah, true.
I always say just give him 30 seconds in the sport. Just give him one free throw at the line. Be like, let's see if you can do it.
I will
That's yeah.
add on to that point. One thing that Matt told me that just like it stuck to my mind like a piece of gum like under a desk or like a fat kid on cake was the old saying like those that don't mind matter and those that matter don't mind. So like trying to like totally rid yourself of the negativity. I mean, Matt was telling me one time, he's like, dude, I got the stock market on my phone, I got my banking app, I got non-liberal mainstream news. That's it. I don't have any other negativity on my phone. And unfortunately, like being on social media, like you get subjected to a lot of that. So I'm trying myself to like just completely block out that negativity because it does rub off on you, whether you want to admit it or not, and just stay
Yeah.
focused on the positive. Because there are some people that actually a lot of people that watch my videos that like I can inspire and put them in a direction of positivity versus negativity. And I don't want to like turn them off because I'm focused on the negative side of things. So that's something
Right.
I've had to work on the last little bit, especially like when I got traded this year. Like I've always had negativity. When I got traded from Watertown to Mississippi, it's like 1,000 of them came out of the woods, and all of a sudden they're everywhere. And like you could not get rid of them. It was like a bed bug infestation.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
They
was.
they feed on the negative things that happen to you in your life. It's crazy. It's wild. It's wild.
I got traded. I got traded for another player and some future considerations, which is probably a Salisbury steak and maybe like a free hotel room. But like I know you laugh, but like that's probably what the deal was for.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about your video content and all that. When did that kind of switch to the podcast? And when did it? Was there kind of a moment you had where you're like, I've got something here? And you've said you've been kind of seriously into this at 5, 6 years. So I guess like, what was the moment you're like, I'm all into this, and I think I've got something.
The moment for like all in on like creating or all in on the financial aspect.
I guess all in on the financial aspect, but kind of when you kind of switch to the podcast within your career and what made you do that.
Sure. So with the vlog, I was always kind of limited because I was always trying to shoot in that like 8 to 10 minute ballpark, try to keep things tight, action packed. And obviously, tight and action packed and podcasting are kind of like they don't really go together. So I thought,
Yeah.
for a while, like I know every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a podcast, but that could be a good avenue. And then you guys know who Pat Shea is?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Played
he had his
played for Maine, right? Yep.
Page, and he had me on a show. And I remember he texted me, he's like, dude, this is like the best performing show I've ever had. And I thought, we need to do a podcast. And then, we kind of got the wheels rolling and talking on some concepts. And then it was actually April 1st of 21. We decided, let's go full on with the podcast every single Sunday. Actually, I think it was every Monday. It might have been at the time. I can't remember what the scheduling was. That we changed it a couple times, but we did that. And that was kind of like, if we can grow this is a really good post-retirement idea. And it really kind of shape-shifted over the years. Like it was me and Pat for a year. We got a little bit of growth, but we were just like too similar. And also like I hadn't learned to like communicate, convey my messaging the way that I have now. And Pat was maybe a little bit too over the top for like a show that I wanted to get towards. So June of 22, we just said, listen, like this ain't working. Like let's split. And we did. And then, today's co-host, Dave Wheeler, he had been listening to the podcast, or not the podcast, but watching the vlog for a while. And I'd listened to his morning show. And we'd been in touch like 6 months earlier. And I had this brainwave one day. I remember my girlfriend, I was driving her back home from work. She was a massage therapist, that girl at the time. And I was like, I should email Dave. So I emailed Dave. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll hop on anytime. And then boom, we did 4 episodes together. It was smashing success. I said, we should do this full time. How do you feel? He was like, yeah, sure. Let's try to grow it. Let's get to a point where maybe we can get some money coming in. That'd be great. And then I think we hit our goal in 2 months. And then like now we've been going to the point where the podcast is pretty much full-time money on its own as is. And then, which is a dream when I first started in the show, like the idea of like when me and Pat would have a good month, we'd make like $75 a month. And it was like, this is a good month. Like, dude, we're loaded. Like you will not believe what we did number wise this month. And now we're doing very, very, very well. And I guess to go back to the financial side of things, I remember like my first YouTube check or my direct deposit, whatever you want to call it, was $20, $20.85. And dude, when it came into my bank account, I was the richest man west of Toronto. I promise you that. Like I remember I was living in the ghetto in downtown Winnipeg. There was a Safeway store right across the street. And in between, you had to dodge a bunch of like used needles. And I ran to the store, which is different from dodging hot lava for the needles. And I bought these like Nutella banana chocolate chip muffins. They were so good. But like I was the richest man on planet Earth at this point in time in my mind. But I was doing well when I started doing the vlog. I turned my college hockey vlog into the vlog. That would have been January of 2019, I think. And then I started trying to do weekly videos. Like hockey wasn't going great. I'll just try to get some videos out and try to make some money. And then money started growing a bit more. Like I was making some money at the time, like, but I was only making maybe like $200-300 a month, like on a good month. And then I got this idea. I was like, I'm just going to stock up on videos, and then I'm going to like work to try to get 5 videos a week done. And I did for 2.5 months, 5 videos a week. I don't know how I did it because like that's insane. That kind of pacing.
It's crazy, yeah.
Like the videos weren't that good. Like the quality, they was just like slopped together. Now that I look back on it, but there was some growth behind that. And I thought, okay, well, 5 videos a week, it's a lot. Let's see if we can do 3. 3 is very maintainable. And I did 3 a week for a year and a half. Minus, there was 1 week I only did 2. And I can't remember what the reasoning was, but I only did 2 that 1 week. So I did that for a year and a half, and the subscribers had grown quite a bit. The sponsors had grown quite a lot, and that actually led me into Sweden. And the Sweden stuff really exploded. But when I came back from college hockey, I was making like $900 a month. And I know it seems like nothing nowadays with how crazy the world's gotten expensive.
Back then you're a very rich man.
I wasn't rich, but if I wanted to be successful and independent on my own, I was knocking on the door. Not quite there yet. I probably needed like I've always lived very moderately. I know maybe kind of hard to tell from the windows behind me, but for the most part, always lived somewhat fairly moderately. And so I only needed like $1,500 a month, like, and that was good. Like I'm cool breaking even, or maybe even making like $100 a month. Like I can live very poor, and I'm totally comfortable doing that. And I just put some time in and trying to like doing that 3 videos a week, trying to go full time, and then for whatever reason, after like my first go around in Sweden, like the sponsors grew, the viewership grew, the subs grew, the money grew, and it's been pretty much full time since then. Sorry, go ahead.
I want to talk about that if we can, because Spencer and I, we started this podcast, not as a hobby. We started this to actually do a podcast one day, and we knew it was going to be a grind. I know for a fact that every podcast that I listened to didn't just, it's not an overnight thing. It's going to take a lot of time to grow. Now, the one thing that I think, is helped you a lot was you had that YouTube following, right? And so when you went into that podcast world, it was kind of maybe you can speak on this. What was that transition like? Were you able to just pull all of those followers over? And was that sort of an easy transition? Because I think the issue that Spencer and I are kind of running into is, or the humps that, we kind of see that we have to jump over is, we didn't play in the NHL. We played club hockey. We know the game. I played overseas, and I've got a lot of amazing stories, but we don't have the original following that just wants to hear those stories. You know what I mean? So we took a step back and we said, what of our episodes so far out of the 36 have done the best? And they were our episodes where we did interviews, and it just wasn't just us bantering about jack shit and talking about life. And so we said, let's take this route. And so now that's one of the reasons we're having you on, is we're kind of going all in on the more interview route to try to just expand and just to help grow. So what kind of advice would you have for us as far as trying to take this into, like you said, you're doing the podcast basically full time now. And that, like you said, it's a dream, and it is, because you're talking with 2 guys right here that are literally dreaming about doing what you're doing one day. And so just take us through that route. And if you had any advice for a couple of schmucks like me and him that are, trying to be different from every Tom, Dick, and Harry that does have a podcast, what would you suggest, and what would your advice be?
A couple thoughts. First off, a great idea getting me on to do an interview and give you a low-key masterclass. That was actually very smart. People usually don't listen when I give that type of advice, but it's like going into a boxing gym and seeing a guy knock you out, be like, well, can he really fight? You know what I mean? But anyway, sorry, side. There's my ego speaking. My apologies. But with the podcasting, it's so interesting because you would think that there was a huge draw from day one, but there really wasn't. Like even to this day, like an average vlog does 15,000, 20,000 ish. The podcast's greatest episode was like 25,000 listens, right? Like on average, we're doing 5,000-6,000 listens every single week ish, depending on all platforms. But at first, I think the first episode me and Pat did which was, we only did audio at the beginning. It was like 1,000. And then it was a big drop off to like 200-300 because I think people were just curious what we had to say. So pulling the audience over does help a bit, but only if you're like a huge name celebrity. Like if you're Joe Schmo, like all three of us would be, there really isn't that big of a pull because like people have come to me to watch the vlog. They don't want to hear what I have to say. They want to watch my life, not hear about it, right? So trying to provide some context to it was a big avenue, like being a video-driven podcast where like I'll tell you about what I'm doing, but here's some video on top to further explain it, to provide some context, which is done really, really, really well. Doing the short-form clips has really helped. Being consistent too, like me and Dave, we make sure we don't upload on like a New Year's Eve or like a Christmas Day. So with the exception of like those major holidays, we have never missed an episode, period. Even since like the day, actually, since me and Dave started in July of 22, we haven't missed a single Sunday, which actually now that I think about it, that's quite a long time.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I think also like you have to want it, right? Like you have to like, you mentioned not caring about what other people think, going out and saying, okay, like I want to do a podcast. What am I good at? Okay, this is what I can offer the world. Okay, how can I communicate that message and how can I offer them value? Because like you just mentioned, like you guys shooting the shit over random stuff, like you can get people to care about that, but they're people who are completely mindless, and mindless people don't tell other people to listen to your show. You have to get people actually thinking. And one of the biggest things that I've learned from Dave is if we can get people thinking during the show, they'll listen again because they're feeling stimulated. They want to feel stimulated. They just don't want to have background noise because background noise doesn't get repeat business. If you provide value and get them thinking, it will. And then if you can get people thinking on the clips, more followers. Then now asking somebody to watch a 30-second clip and then give you 45 minutes for a full episode, that's been the biggest challenge of my career. Dude, I've rehabbed hip surgery. I've tried playing in the Fed. You know, I've been living in the ghetto of downtown. I've done a lot of really tough, challenging things in my life. So like trying to bring people over to the full-length show has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire lifetime because it is such a hard ask, right? Because people don't know you. They don't owe you anything. They watch a clip or maybe they like it, maybe they don't. And then you want 45 minutes of their time. Like even people I know personally, I'll ask, hey, listen to the show. They're like, that's a huge ask. Like, you know what I mean? So it's tough.
It's hard getting friends and family to listen to it. And you would think that it's like, oh, they're like some of my best friends, some of the guys I played with. And it's like, people are busy and it's really hard, especially if you don't have that background, like a Spit and Chicklets where you have guys with 20 years in the NHL, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's difficult. Like you said,
like they're behind an absolute media empire.
Yeah.
They have more money than you and I will ever even like imagine. So I was talking with Cam Jansen a while ago. He does the Cam and Strix podcast. We were talking about like what makes a good podcast. What's a great hockey podcast? You know what I mean? Like I could think I have the best podcast. You could think you have the best podcast. But at the end of the day, the algorithms are what are going to decide that. Like the algorithm pushes out certain things and it suppresses other things. Now, Barstool and Chicklets are so different because like they have so much money going at it with this media empire. They're like you have to just completely disregard them because they're such a specimen.
They're anomalies. Yeah,
like nobody will ever replicate that success, no matter how hard they try. Even they probably couldn't replicate their success.
No.
So like at least like for me and Dave, we look at okay, well, what's Curfew doing? What's Cam Strix doing? What are some of the other shows doing? Okay, we're doing more views than them, but their clips here are doing better, or maybe they're doing worse. Our clips have been exploding the last little bit, so we're trying to capitalize off that. So like, where do you slot in? Like asking yourself, like, what do you do well, and what can you offer people? Being consistent, and you need a little bit of luck too, because like the algorithm does decide that. Right? Like I could have the greatest show on planet Earth. If the algorithm says "fuck you," I'm not uploading or I'm not supporting it, like you're kind of in deep shit. So
trying
to play within those confines as well is another interesting thing, but. I think just being passionate about what you talk about and offering value to people in whatever format you see. I don't know if you can tell, like I'm a fairly good talker and communicator. And as you've seen through the vlog, I have many, many hot opinions and takes. And I see things very differently than most people. So that in and of itself is an attraction for some, maybe a detraction from others. But I've also tried to like attract a certain audience. Like I'm not trying to be everybody's cup of tea. Because if you are everybody's cup of tea, like you don't stand for anything. Like you have to have like, this is what I'm trying to attract. This is what I'm trying to repel. And the right people will come over a long enough time span. Maybe it's a bad business formula. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But so far it's worked.
It's working. Well. Yeah, it's working for you. So yeah, we'll take any advice that we can get. And we want to commend you for the.
What is working, right? Like what's my definition versus what's yours? Like the view, people watching are what's most important. But then how do you monetize those people watching through sponsors? And then how do you do the sponsors in a way where the people watching don't leave? Like you follow that? Like
Yeah.
balance that?
Yeah.
People don't give a shit that this is my full-time thing. They want to be entertained regardless. So like, how can we balance that? It's difficult, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's kind of the Spencer and I are learning this process as we go through, and
focus on just growing the show, because if you have 50 viewers and they see you're trying to like nickel and dime over a couple bucks, they're going to get pissed off and leave. So you're better spent putting your energy into just growing the show as big as you possibly can. Fuck the sponsors, make no money. And then when it starts to grow a bit, start asking companies, hey, give me 50 bucks, give me 25 bucks, give me the smallest amount possible. Like, I mean, even like a company like Manscaped, I think the first offer they ever gave me was like $100. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then, fast forward like 5-6 years, still working with them, here and there, and getting them on the show, getting them on the vlog, or even like a sheath underwear. Like, they gave me freebies for like 2 years. Like, hey, just here's some underwear, use it, love it. And then boom, all of a sudden they sponsored every episode in the show for 2 years ish. Like every single podcast episode, of vlogging, 2 vlogs every month in some cases. So you just got to grow it to get to that point. Like, the full-time money is, like, I got messages like this all the time. Like, how do I make full-time money doing the podcast and the vlog, the social media? The best way to do it is to not try to do it. Like, if you are passionate, like I wanted to make reviews and help people, or I wanted to provide entertainment with my vlog, or I wanted to share a universal story that life is difficult, hockey has adversity, it's challenging, but we all go through it. Here's how I'm getting through it. Maybe I can help you with some inspiration. People will buy into that, and over time it'll grow. It's not the sexy answer, because it takes time. It takes a lot of hard work, and you'll have a lot of moments where you want to quit.
Yeah.
If you keep over that over a long enough time span, the audience will grow, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you'll have some companies reaching out. Maybe even you reach out to companies, and they're willing to pay $100, $200 for a month of a sponsorship package, and then you're rocking and you're rolling, and then you kind of go from there. So
Yeah, I just had one final one. So we kind of talked about all like the video career, the podcast career. Is there someone, or was there a moment where you kind of pinched yourself, be like, I can't believe I'm talking to this person, or I'm able to kind of go to this event or be a part of this due to like this side of the career? Was there ever just like someone you were like, I never like 13-year-old me never saw me shaking hands with this person or sitting down and having an interview with them?
yeah, I actually have the perfect story for you. And it wasn't me who pinched myself. It was my girlfriend at the time, because when me and Pat were doing the show together, he had told me that, I don't know, maybe forgive me if you've heard the story before on the show, but he left a comment on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Instagram post one time. It was just say, "Hey Rock, good to see you're doing well. We should catch up over lunch sometime." And The Rock responded to him, "Yeah,
of course you did.
let's do it sometime." And then he gave him like a holler back emoji. And I thought, if Pat Shea can get that out of The Rock, why can't I do that with NHL players and goalies, and then get them to come on the show? This is my brain, my genius idea. And it got a couple guys on the show when we were doing interviews. But I remember I was like, man, I'm not seeing the success I want. Don't go through the players, because they're probably expecting people to harass them and tell them they suck. Go through the wives. That's the way to do it. So I messaged a bunch of wives, and I know it sounds weird, but I messaged, hey, I want to get your husband on the show, like whatever. And I remember I messaged Matt Murray's wife, Christina. This must have been like a January or February. She messaged me back probably like May, maybe June. Hey, just saw your message. Talk to Matt. Here's his number. He'd love to talk with you, blah, blah, blah. And so I gave Matt a call. We chatted on the phone. It was really cool. My girlfriend at the time, she was there. I remember I hung up on him, or like I hung up on our conversation, and she's like, why the fuck does Matt Murray want to be friends with you? And I thought, good question. I don't know. He seemed really friendly. I guess it would be her pinching my skin of like, why does this dude who's won 2 cups and have how many millions of dollars in the bank want to be friends with a guy who just finished his second year in Sweden, who's, kind of a bum with a mullet? That's a great question. I don't know, but our friendship is still going well, and he's I would say he's probably one of the closest 5 people I have in my life. It's something that I seriously aspire to be more like, in every way humanly possible. He's an incredible role model, and great example of masculine excellence, and just an unreal man.
That's a crazy story. That's basically you could write a book, How I Became Friends with Matt Murray. I mean, that's a fantastic story. That's awesome.
So I'm flying to Toronto at the end of next month. He invited me to come golfing with him again in Muskoka. So we're going to go golf for 2 days, and then he did the podcast with me and Pat Shea over Zoom on what you would think was like a Nintendo DS camera. So it wasn't the greatest, but it was the only podcast he's ever done to date. Like, period. Like, you look on the internet, there's no Matt Murray podcast. And so I realized after, I'm like, wow, I have the only Matt Murray podcast ever. And all the clips did huge numbers. And then Matt texted me a couple months ago. He's like, hey, man, I want to do a new podcast with you in person. Let's do it this summer. Okay, cool. and then end up booking our trip this June. So we're gonna sit down. We're gonna share this exact story between him and I for the show. So curious what you guys think when you actually hear it come out of his mouth. Hopefully,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, that'll be really cool.
Yeah, that'll be funny. That'll be funny. Yeah.
I'll give you exclusive here to kind of piggyback off that story, just to really hammer home what kind of a good guy he is, and then you can use this as reference when we do the podcast.
Okay.
It comes up. But so we had that friendship, and then he last year, the girl that I was dating at the time, he had invited her and I to go golf with him and Christina, like his wife, over the summer. I'm like, yeah, cool, this sounds good. We'll go golfing. And then I remember she dumped my ass, and then I texted Matt and was like, hey man, I'm really sorry, but she just gassed me. I think we're gonna have to cancel our golfing thing. And we ended up getting into it a bit because he's been with Christina, she's his high school sweetheart, so they've been together since he was 15 or whatever. And he said a couple times, yeah, man, I locked it in early. I didn't deal with any of that liberal garbage. I got a real good woman, and I'm happy that she's my wife. So we ended up kind of going on the rabbit hole, and then he ended up making a couple recommendations of, hey, you should talk to this guy. And he actually put me in touch with his life coach, who coached the Penguins to 2 cups from, I guess, not behind the bench, but away from the arena.
Yeah.
Navy SEAL for 10 years, and man, this guy changed my life, my outlook on everything. And Matt really hooked it up so that he wasn't charging me full price, which I really appreciated, and really, really helped me kind of become the man that I wanted to be. And that's all based off Matt's friendship with me. And man, I if that guy texted me and said, hey, I need something, I need you to pop down, I'd drop whatever I'm doing and come do it for him, because I feel like I owe.
But it sounds like he would do the same for you. It sounds like Matt Murray would give you the shirt off his back if you needed it, which is, it's just fantastic to hear.
He actually did when we went golfing last year.
Of course he did.
He's like, oh, you're dressed like a bozo. It's going to rain. We got 30 kilometers here. Put this jacket on. And he throws me this windbreaker. And I'm driving the golf cart. And he's like, are you cold? I was like, yeah. He's like, aren't you glad you're not wearing that shirt you brought? I was like, yep.
That's awesome.
He will literally give you the shirt off his back.
Yeah, Matt Murray literally gave you the shirt off his back. That's awesome.
But yeah,
I reached out to somebody you're close with. And after I read this, you're probably know who it is, but I got to ask you about something. Because I'm kind of mad that you have kept this from the world. I'm actually mad he's kept it from the world, but let me read you this message and you'll be able to say this. I tipped Trav off on how to get unlimited coffee and water at Starbucks worldwide. Might be a clip that could go viral if he talks about robbing Starbucks blind. Do you have any idea?
Exactly who this is. Oh man, yeah, he's a great guy. I actually just talked to him yesterday.
Yeah, so that's Rob from Butt Ends. If anybody's used Butt Ends before, that was from the mouth of Rob, owner and creator of Butt Ends. But what in the world is he talking about? How do you get unlimited free water and coffee at Starbucks worldwide? What is this, and how are you robbing Starbucks blind?
Yeah, so as far as the waters go, so legally in North America, any establishment has to give you free water if you ask for it. Now, Starbucks has the greatest water on the planet, so they use a triple filter system to make the water. Then they make their filtered ice with the filtered water. So they have the best water and the best ice. So you go in, ask for a Trenta ice water cup. It's free, triple filter. It's literally the greatest water you'll ever try, period. So whenever I'm in the airports, instead of spending $9 on a bottle of Daisy, which is an absolute scam, you go to Starbucks, ask for 2 water cups, free, you're rolling. And then here's another thing, too. If you go to Starbucks, and this was my biggest hack in the season during in the Fed. So on a Sunday, you go to Starbucks in store, you're a Starbucks reward member, you scan your reward thing, you get any drink you want, you're entitled to a free in-store refill for a hot or iced coffee, hot or iced tea. And so I'll go down there, I'll get an iced coffee with pumpkin spice cold foam, and I'll sit there for 6 hours chipping away on my editing. And I'll go through 5 or 6 refills every hour in the hour, boom, just guzzle a new one, guzzle it. Yep, another refill, Mr. Ridgen? Yes, please. And as long as you're on the property, so you can be in the patio or in the store, you get unlimited refills. So I go and buy my $9 coffee, which people are like, oh my God, you spent so much money. Well, chill out, boomer. You get 5 refills. Now my coffee is $1.75.
That's insane.
This is wild. It's not even the coffee thing. The water thing has fucking blown my mind. That I've been spending $9.50 on a smart water, which I think dehydrates me even more than just drinking tap water, if I'm actually being honest. And I could have just been going, and then I've been going to Starbucks and buying the coffee on top of the $9.50 water, when I could have just been going to Starbucks and getting free triple filtered water with filtered ice on top. This is bullshit that this has been kept from the world.
You know, I'll tell you this story. So I've always flown and traveled on my own. There's only one time I've ever flown or traveled with somebody else, and this was last summer, flying Toronto to Winnipeg with my girlfriend at the time. And so, like, I was kind of excited. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm actually traveling with somebody. This is cool. I'll get to show her all my traveling techniques and hacks and tricks, and she gets the benefit off my Air Canada status, which as a man, it's like, yeah, like that's my status. You can benefit off of, right? And so go down to the airport, and I'm like, ooh, like let's get some like waters at Starbucks. And she's like, why don't you just buy the water? Have fun dying broke. Like I'm trying to explain to you how to save $9. And then she went and bought like a $7 muffin. Like, you want a muffin? I was like, no, I don't actually. I'm gonna go to Starbucks. I'm gonna get my coffee. I'm gonna get 17 refills. That feels like you're being cheap. It's in the system. There's a reason why they offer it. So take advantage of it. Don't be like this. But again,
play the game, people. Just play the game. If you don't play the game is gonna play you. You know what I mean? Play the game.
And if you think like that, you're going to end up being a loser, a literal loser. And if you think the other way, you're a winner. Why would I unnecessarily spend $18 on 2 waters for her and I when I can get it for free? And instead, here's chess, not checkers here. Instead, I'll take that $18 and select our seats in advance. Or we'll save $18, and because I have status, I'll get us into the lounge and or pre-select our seats for free. Why don't we do that?
Yeah. You hear that, woman? We're drinking free water at Starbucks from now on.
She's gone. Oh, you're talking about yours, or you're talking about my?
No, I'm talking about mine. I'm making sure she heard me.
Listen up, classes set.
Yeah, bang on the wall real quick. We're drinking Starbucks water from now on.
You watching my videos is like, this is my thank you for you watching them. The fact that like you can actually like have like something to piggyback off of like what I've done, and hopefully this can help you. Like, so consider.
You know, Man, I love it. We can't thank you enough. And yeah, like I said, it's kind of cool because I've been watching your videos for a while now. And I think I started really getting into them right when the Swedish vlogs were like blowing up. When those were kind of you know, getting a lot of views and becoming big and kind of really setting the tone for your page. So yeah, no, we can't thank you enough. And we again can't thank you enough for the advice. Like I said, you're kind of living our dream. In as small as a dream as it may be for you, it's a huge dream for us. And you know, I can tell you're super humble about it, and you're very grateful for where you are and where you come from. So again, man, we can't thank you enough for being here. If you have one piece of advice, let's just end it with this. If you have one piece of advice for a young goalie who wants to play at any kind of high level, maybe they're an 8-year-old, maybe they're 10, maybe they're 12, and it doesn't have to be NHL. It can be NA3, it can be Saskatchewan Junior, whatever it is. If you have one advice for just a young youth goalie, just one piece of focus they can take, what would that be?
I'll give you a piece of advice that you can kind of extrapolate out to anything. Like, whether you can put this on podcasting, business, dating, hockey, all of it.
Okay.
So, and a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I don't really care. When you walk into the room to go and do something, you have to believe that you are the man. You have to show up on the spot. I'm the man. There's nobody else. And people, like, a lot of people will try to shame you and say, oh, well, like, you should be a little bit more humble, or you should be a little bit more of this. Like, there's not a single situation where me believing that I am the man for the job and nobody's better than me is going to hurt me. As opposed to if I come in like, well, I might be able to do it. I don't know. I hope I'm good at podcasting, and that doesn't work. Like, you come into the rink, I'm the best goalie here. I'm coming in to accomplish a job. I'm the man. I'm coming in. I got the best podcast. I'm going to put in the work, because you can't think that if you haven't done the work, because confidence comes from competency, and competency comes from doing the job consistently well every single time. So you put in the work, you become competent. If you become competent, you become confident, and then you can actually believe that you are the man. So it's kind of this full revolving circle of how to manifest this into happening. So come in, believe you're the man, do the work, everything else should fall into place. And if you try hard enough over a long enough time span, you will see the results. If you haven't, you just got to keep working a little bit harder. Sometimes you need a little bit of a break. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck. What I talked about the algorithm, you need a little bit of luck that Google or Facebook or Instagram decides, hey, we'll push this out. But if you do the right things over a long enough time span, you may not get exactly where you want it to go, but you'll go off in a new direction where maybe you're really happy that it went that way. So believe that you're the man, believe in yourself, have confidence, and get shit done.
You hear that, Spencer? We are the fucking men. We are the fucking men. Well, that's fantastic.
SpongeBob, the SpongeBob movie. Now that we're men, we
Yeah. I love it. Well, Travis, we can't thank you enough, man. I'll send you a text email here in a little bit. We'll talk. But yeah, man, thank you so much. And that was Travis Ridgen, Trav4Oilers, and that was Fairway Forechecks podcast. Spencer, you want to hit it with him?
Peace.